There I am. Hey everyone, welcome to Author Nation. I'm Melody Ann, and today we're going to talk about copy editing and style editing. So many authors jump right into this type of editing as they're trying to write the book. So my very first piece of advice is don't edit as you write. Let the mistakes happen. Choose, if you're not sure of the right word, just choose any word that's like good enough for the moment. Just stay in the flow of writing and write your book. You don't need to be perfect all the time right off the bat. So just, don't edit as you go. And once you have a draft done, don't go back into copy editing immediately. Do your developmental editing. And so do 1 round or 2 rounds or 3 rounds of developmental editing before you get to the style and the copy editing. And I know that can be really hard because people want to be letter perfect, word perfect. But the thing is, what I see authors doing is I see them putting in the time and the effort to get every word, every sentence, all the punctuation, the grammar, everything correct before the content is set, before the content is structured appropriately, before the whole book is in one piece. And that means they're going to be doing this work on this copy editing, then things are going to shift, and then they're going to have to do that work again on the copy editing. So this is kind of a last stages. So you have the draft, you've done 1 or several rounds of developmental editing. You're pretty sure this is it. This is the content. Now you can come and look at style. You can look at punctuation and grammar and word choice. You can look at all of that stuff. That's when you do it. So the first thing I'm going to say is when you're ready to do the copy editing, stop, put the manuscript away, ignore it. Because once you've finished, when you're writing a book, you're so into it, you stop seeing all the individual words, and it's really hard to edit your own work. And one of the things you can do is set it aside and take some time and take some space and just get away from it for a little while, right? And then after some time, depending on how much time you have, or, take as much time as you can, come back to it. And then couple of suggestions. 1, print it out. That seems like a lot of work, but printing it out, reading something on screen and reading a printed document, a very different experience. And so it's much easier to read a printed document most of the time. So I'm going to say print it out. The other thing I'm going to say is read your work out loud, read it aloud. And so you want to kind of say it slowly, does it make sense? Read it over. Another thing you can do when you're looking at it sentence level is read sentence by sentence backwards. So go to the back of the book, read the very last sentence, and then read the second last sentence, and then read the third last sentence. Reading it backwards means that you're not focusing on the content. You're not taking in the information. It allows you to look at each sentence individually instead of looking at the whole, and that can help you break it down. So reading it out loud, reading it backwards, having a break, and of course have a style guide. Decide how you're going to do things, how things are going to work. What using British English or American English or Canadian English. Kind of have a style guide. Decide what your rules are for writing, and so that's kind of upfront. So what are you looking for? One thing you're doing is you're checking all your facts and all your figures. You're going to make sure that you got everything right. You haven't made any mistakes in numbers or figures or misquoted somebody or anything like that, right? And then another thing I suggest you do, and this can be really hard for yourself, but figure out what your favorite words are. We all have our favorite words or our favorite phrases, our favorite sentence structures. If you can figure out what your writing habits are, then you can specifically look at your writing for your writing habits, and then you can have more variety by saying, yeah, I use that word a lot. I'm sure I could replace it with other words. So that's one thing you can do. So I want to share my screen with you to give you some other ideas. I'm going to share my screen. All right, there we go. You can see it. So I've just written some sentences in a Word document. Now, you could I could write an entire book on this topic. You could take entire courses on this topic, but I just want to show you some of the things that I see time and time again when I'm editing for my clients that you can quite easily look for yourself in your own writing. So you can do that before you send it off to professional editors, and hopefully, they don't need to do as much editing, and you will save some money on that. Because I know authors sometimes don't want to pay some really hefty fees because it's expensive to do the book, the cover and the editing, and there's a lot going on, right? So let's take a look. The first one is, there is a vicious dog. This here, there is. I see this a lot. There is, and also this one, it is. There is, it is. There is, there are, it is. These kind of fronting of sentences are usually unnecessary, and they create more words. You land up being more verbose than you need to be, too many words. And so what you can do instead, you can say, a vicious dog lives there. And that's fewer words. It's much simpler. Same with this one. The third house, so we're just going to do it this way. The third house on the left sells eggs. So you can take it down and just do that. Fewer words. This is something else I see. And people always like, I don't do that. And it's like, I think a lot of people do it. Professional writers make mistakes. Your and your, there, accept. These just words that are can be confusing at times. And it's not that you don't know what's correct. It's that when you're in that flow of writing, sometimes you're just like going along and you make these mistakes. So you can look at this and, oh, this one's going to correct that for me. There we go. You're a great person. You're a great person for that promotion. I see this a lot. People use great. Kind of, I call them nondescript adjectives, things that don't really describe the person. Is this person have the knowledge for the promotion? Do they have the expertise? Do they have the experience? Have they been a loyal employee? What is it that you think makes that person a great person for the promotion? And use that instead. Whenever you use adjectives that I call nondescript, I suggest that you rethink the use of them. The next one, don't use big words when simple words will do. What I suggest you do here is you try not to use negatives whenever possible. Try to use positives whenever possible. So I would say use simple words instead of complex words. Use simple words instead of complex words. Next one, she lied and pretended that she loved him. This word is overused and you can take it out most of the time. So go through, you can search if you're using Word or you're using a special writing program, you can often search for words, search for the word that and remove all the instances that you can. The next thing is the garden is tended by the neighbor. I think this is a habit that we get into because when we're in school or we're being taught to do more academic writing, or I remember when I was in school, the passive voice, and this is passive voice, was favored because we didn't want to use I all the time. We don't want to use I, and we don't want to be boastful or whatever it is. And we got into this passive habit. So in this case, what's really happening is the neighbor tends the garden. And just take out passive. So use active voice whenever possible. Subject, verb, rather than object, verb, subject. I will communicate with him about your message on Monday. This is another habit I think that we were taught and that has been developed in schools. somehow we're supposed to have this very big, we're supposed to use big words. We're supposed to show how smart we are. Well, when you're writing, especially when you're writing complex ideas, you actually want to simplify the language as much. You don't want the reader to be focused on the big words. You want them to be focused on the big ideas, the complex ideas that you are expressing. And so you can just say, I will tell him about your message on Monday. And that's all you need. Next, he scrubbed his prized pig in order to. Now this is an example very similar to the one above. They're just like low content words. You want to take out all of those low content words. And there are a lot of low content words out here. Just look up a list, right? At the same time as necessary, due to the fact, all of these words are, again, I think we're taught to do those in school, right? So we want to take them out. And here you just go, he scrubbed his prize pig to enter him in the contest. It is necessary for me to buy some paper for the printer. So you just want to say, this is a hidden verb. I call it nounification, when we take a verb and we make it a noun so that we have to use 5 extra words. So I need to buy some paper for the printer. It reduces words. So if you find words like necessary, and there's a list, you can look up hidden verbs and it'll show you what words are often used instead of the verb. And in this case, you can just say paper. I need to buy paper. So again, we don't need to modify everything. We're always trying to add adjectives and adverbs all the time. We're trying to modify everything. You actually don't need to. Having fewer words is really good. I'm just going to tell you a short story. I'm just going to do this and I'm just going to do that. And it's a little thing here and a little thing here. And I'm minimizing myself and I'm minimizing my writing. No, take them out. Anytime you find yourself minimizing or modifying in a way, I'm actually, or I'm only, and I'm just, you want to remove all of that language. I find that when I'm editing, women tend to use that language more than men. Women tend to minimize themselves in their writing more than men do. That's my experience as an editor. And so I'm going to say, take that all out. I'm going to tell you a short story. A very big monster. I see this a lot. Instead of coming up with the right word, we use things like very in front of it. So instead of a very big monster, you want to say an enormous. And I spelled that wrong. enormous monster lived in the cave. And so use the right words whenever you're using very, or you are modifying it, intensifying a word, like using very or something similar. Just take it out or find the right verb, find the right, something stronger. And here's another example of that. He walked quietly through the room. Instead of walking quietly, he tiptoed through the room. It's just a more exact word. And so you want to find those right words to use in your writing. And then, this is one, I see this all the time. I don't know where this habit has come from, but a lot of writers do this. I started to go to the store. I started to do this. I started to tell him. I started this, or I began to tell him about my day. I started to tell him about the day. I started to go for a walk. No, I went for a walk. I told him about my day. So look for the words begin, began, start, started, and eliminate as many as possible in your writing. You don't start doing things. You don't begin doing things. You do things. And this is a huge one that I see in a lot of writing when I'm editing. And here's another one, which is, again, minimizing. It's another way to minimize. He seems to be upset. He actually this. And so you don't need that. So he is upset by the news. He is upset by the news. And so these are a few things you can look at in your own writing and before you send it off to a professional editor. And that will help you. I'm just going to come back. And that will help you go through your own writing. I think it'll help you send off a better material to your editor, but it'll also help you find your habits, because you're probably not doing all of these. You probably have a few of these habits. And if you can learn what some of your writing habits are, not when you're writing, don't start editing those when you're writing, but when you're editing your own work, you will know what to look for, and your editing will get faster, your writing will get better. And so that is some tips on copy editing your own work. Again, it could be a whole course, it could be a whole book. It's a huge topic. I just wanted to pull out a few that I commonly see. And this is it. This is session 12 of 90 days to your first draft. So if you're at your first draft here, that is amazing and well done. And if you're not, don't worry. You can continue to work on it. You don't have to have it done on 90 days. That's the other thing I see authors, they're so hard on themselves. I don't have it all done now, and that's okay. So if you are stuck, if you are really, really stuck, in the description, I'm going to put a link to have a 30-minute session with me just to go over what you're stuck with and see if I can help you. That will be in the description. And I hope you enjoyed the 90 days to your first draft, and I will see you all later. Bye.